Greetings. What is up? Um, this is still kind of awkward for me, and I don't even know why. Also, sorry for the dog barking. That's my neighbor's dog, and well, he's out and about. And it's so weird too, because I don't really know why I don't like going live on here. I normally go live on my Facebook page, so like I know what's up. But I definitely need to start getting into it. Plus, I'm taking a break from going live on my Facebook and starting to focus on here, YouTube, and podcast. So far, I've talked to 3 people that are content creators on here that will eventually soon, hopefully within the next few weeks, few months, will be featured on my podcast. Super excited about that. And then sometime, probably in January, I'm actually going to try to interview the original people that I interviewed. So that's going to be interesting. And then I'm super excited because I have another plant that's coming home. It is another century plant. My partner, where he works in his type of job, he randomly brings me home plants. I'd love to talk astrology with you one day. Yes, you're one of the people that I'm eventually going to message to see if we can like set up a date for. I call them interviews, but if anybody ever listens to them, they're really not interviews. They're more just like kind of cutting back, having a conversation. I got to get back into it. So that's going to be interesting. But yes, trust me, your astrology tips and using Astro Matrix have saved my life. And so many times, and my partner, he messages me like Monday through Friday. He's like, "Where's my astrology tip?" And I'm like, "I'll work on it." Because normally I'll watch your videos, and then I'll take things because I know the company he works at very well. So like, I'll take key things with that and tell him, and he loves it. So you definitely have 2 fans here because astrology, it's tricky. It's very in depth. Oh no, you're good. Trust me. Yesterday the things that I did and the things that I'm currently doing today have just completely wiped me from bones as well. I said that to my partner the other day, and he's like, "Well, excuse me?" And I was like, "It's a 13-year-old pug that is basically deciding on the entire world if it's a good day or if it's a fuck it day. I'm in bed all day." But my only problem is with me like following Pug or Bones is because eventually he's 13, and I'm not mentally or emotionally prepped for that at all. I'm still in the process of trying to hunt down one of the female cats, which I think I've showed it in a video. Little Dipper. She recently, the day before Halloween on the 30th, she apparently had her kittens, so now I have to go find them. My report's usually correct. They really are. Your reports are spot on. Like, they have saved my ass multiple times. And then there's a newer app. Well, there's an app. I'm trying to think of the name to it. It's astrology, but it was specifically for iPhone users. They had not branched out with it. And yesterday it officially hit the store. So now I have 2 astrological apps that I use, which is Astro Matrix and then the other one. And I'm still trying to figure out and memorize like everything. I know Chiron normally fucks with me really hard. That and anything, any full moon or new moon that's in Aries, it fucks with me hardcore, and it drives me crazy because I'm like, I know it's the moon, but still. And then the biggest thing today is the whole alligator and Loki. Come on, Bubbers. The whole alligator Loki thing. We have an alligator on our in our lake. He's been here. He's probably like 4 feet, if that. And I was in the process of making a TikTok today, and I have it saved in my draft, but I stopped and I looked over because I saw him like swimming up, and I was like, "Oh, we have a visitor." And then for some reason, Loki popped out of my mouth, and I'm like, "Oh, look, it's Loki." For the first time in 4 years, or for the first time us being on the property and actually seeing alligators, literally it crawled up out of the lake and just sat there and watched me. And I'm like, "Okay, Loki, is that you? Is that you, Loki?" And then Right after that, I pulled out my Oracle deck, and there's a alligator card in there. So I was like, the odds of me shuffling the hell out of this and then randomly getting that card, astronomical. So I did it, and it just so happens I got the alligator. So now I have to go do research on if Loki is trying to reach out to me. So this is going to be fun, and I'm slightly intimidated because I don't really work with deities that much, and if I do, it's when I'm doing work, whether it's my own personal work or whether it's custom work. And of course, they don't always like help out with it, but it depends on what I'm doing. And then I primarily, which I do not consider a deity, work with the Witch Father. Well, I'm currently in the steps of building a relationship with the Witch Father, actually connecting with him, and then the Witch Mother, and then my ancestors. But for some reason, when like that happened, my day is going pretty good. For some reason, when that happened, I was just like, wait, that's not normal, and I don't believe in coincidences. Like, I am the type of person, like, if it cannot be explained mundane wise, then it goes into spiritual wise. I hope your day is going good too. I am currently, right now I have the spell candles, or the community candles, and then my actual ancestor newer altar right behind this curtain right here on my table. I've decided, since I learned about the astronomical point of Halloween or Samhain, I'm actually going to officially start celebrating it yearly for a week. So the 31st will kick off the 1st, and then normally the 7th. I gotta step out and finish up some cleaning, but I want to say hey. Okay, I hope everything goes well, and I hope the cleaning goes fun. Hello, and yes, I'm excited. I've got to start getting more into these. It's just TikTok is extremely intimidating. And then I also starting to realize I spend more time, a little bit too much more time on TikTok, because I was on Facebook today and I went to respond to a comment, and like I was confused for a second. I'm like, wait, where's the video? And then I realized I was on Facebook. So that was when I was just like, yeah, maybe it's time to take a step back. I am working on a couple of YouTube videos. I've got to get the oil that I need, because I'm going to be making one video that hopefully will have 4 oils in it. They're going to be my own personal recipes, and I encourage anybody who sees them to take those recipes and add a twist on it. And I encourage that with anything. Anything that I share through my TikToks, please do it if you feel the need to do it, or if you like it, add it to your practice, but also add your own little personal spin. And that's how I think a lot of other people, I hope a lot more people will get more comfortable with posting small tidbits, which I understand is a personal thing. I understand not everybody likes to show their craft or to actually show their personal work. But the reason that I like the idea of it is because it can show how versatile witchcraft really is. And all of us, I'm guilty of it too, we're falling into the same thing. Like, I saw somebody make a comment, it was the perfect comment too. Nothing much, just sitting here chilling. Somebody made a comment on somebody's video about one of the reasons they don't use books anymore or buy books is because most witchcraft books we have now are the same, and there's nothing against what I'm about to say, but the same Wiccan rhetoric just kind of spun over and over again with flashier copies of, new flashier things. Silver Ravenwolf is really, really known for it. She'll republish her books time and time again and just add a flashier cover to it. And, I mean, true enough, we are starting to see way more newer books, as in, I always go back to this. Doctoring the Devil, Jake Richards' 2 books that he came out with, Backwoods Witchcraft, Appalachian Folk Magic, and Conjure, and then the Doctoring the Devil, and then the traditional... The Crooked Path, that was extremely eye-opening. That's actually when I kind of found my spot. I'm doing good, I hope you're doing good as well. And then there is, Poison, I want to say it's Poison Apothecary. There's a poison practitioner that I follow on Facebook. I think he has a TikTok. I think at one point they actually banned him. He actually just came out with his first book too, which is on the Poison Path, with witchcraft and spirituality involved. So we are starting to get way more books or more different spins on it. But at the end of the day, a lot of it, especially, which I'm guilty of collecting books. I love the idea of just having a magical library. Not to mention, I always have books that I can just randomly pull out, get a reference from, and then boom. But we're doing the same thing with online communities. And I think that's one of the reasons some practitioners are, especially if you're a content creator like me and everybody else on here, basically, we're having issues trying to come up with actual videos because, yeah, we've went over the basics. There's only a certain amount of basics that you can go over. And then we're stuck on, it's like the video that, and there's no hate towards anybody because I do it all the time. And TikTok is kind of made like that. It's made to kind of add your own spin to another person's video. But with that, we get stuck into the witchy tips, the beginner tips, and like everybody's like shadow prompts. You're telling us to do shadow work, but you're not actually telling us how to do shadow work. And I realized it when I kept saying, do your own research. One day it hit me, I was like, I'm telling these people to do research, but I'm not giving them a way of how to actually do it. Okay, you definitely will. I'm gonna definitely start doing these more. And that was when I realized, I was like, wait, if we tell them to do research and then follow that with, hey, here are some ideas of which direction to go with your research. Number one rule, do not use Google to do your research. Like, if you have an Android phone like I do, of course we're going to use Google. But when you're doing research, anything to do with metaphysical, spiritual, witchcraft, DuckDuckGo, Bing, because Google suppresses a lot of the good articles, and you're going to have all these ads and all these blog posts. Some of them are good, but others, it's basic information. DuckDuckGo, Bing, any other alternative web browser like that, you're going to get better answers. There's Tumblr. I use Tumblr all the time to do research, or at least to get ideas and different resources. And another thing is, yes, I agree, things like shadow work and research can be hard to find if you don't know where to go. Exactly, not to mention, that term is kind of new. I mean, Christopher Penczak, he has an entire book in his Temple of Witchcraft series. The third one is shadow. The entire book is about shadowing. But the way people on TikTok talk about it, there's not that many actual posts or even historical aspects to this to be able to, oh, okay, let's do it. A lot of them are like, it's writing it down. But your shadow aspect, it is everything physical, mentally, and spiritual. Oh, there's more than adult stuff on Tumblr. Kind of. I mean, in my Discord, that's another thing people are not talking about a lot. My Discord, I opened a 18 plus only to talk about like sex magic. And I have to watch talking about it on here. But there's a lot of adult things to do with witchcraft that people just don't talk about. And it's almost like it's a taboo when in reality it's not. You know, having your adult time and using the peak of it to manifest or to push that energy outward to get your desired outcome is extremely fucking powerful. Because it's just like using, I'm going to say cherry juice, but I'm talking about blood. I don't want to get flagged. So when you use cherry juice, the reason it is extremely potent in your practice is because it is a pure essence of you. It is basically you in liquid form. And that's why a lot of people don't talk about it. But when you do, some of the videos that I've seen, yeah, there have been great ones, but there are also a lot of misleading ones. Like if you're working with a deity or some type of spirit, don't give them your cherry juice. That sounded so weird. We're talking in code here. Don't do it. If they ask for it, red flag. I was listening to a podcast. It was either Living Witchcraft or Southern Babbling. And they were like, if you put salt on your altar and you're afraid of your ancestors or deities going away, you have a lot more things to think about than you think of. If you have it in your head that just the scent of sage, culinary sage, not white sage, will like banish your ancestors from your house, you have way more things to think about than just that. Because I burn sage every single time I have a reading. I either burn this right here, ground up sage, culinary sage, or I'll get the sage that they have in the like vegetable department at the grocery stores. I'll get that and dry it out and use that. But I still have spiritual activity. I still have ancestors all the way here. Like last night, my partner came to me and he goes, is there anything like besides it being Samhain, is like anything specifically happening today? And I was like, we're having a solar flare or a solar storm. He's been seeing stuff in the house for the past like 2 days. And it's so weird because I made a video on shadow people because I have multiple shadow people. But the weird thing is all the responses I got in that video were like, they're negative. And I'm like, well, yeah, I've come in contact with negative shadow people, but not everything is a shadow person. If you don't think that your ancestors or a spirit, they may not have the full body or the full energy or know-how to actually manifest them into a full body apparition. So they're going to show you that they're there. That may somehow go into it, them showing you as a shadow. And then everybody's just like, oh, burn sage, get the holy water. No. No. If you think you have something negative at your house, you need to go about it carefully because you don't know what it is. So what if it actually is something extremely negative? I do not like using the term demon at all. It's used too many times. It's too much of an umbrella term, really. Either that or people automatically go to the Christian aspect of demons. But you're not just gonna want to go in there like fucking holy water slinging everywhere, fucking saying shit out of the Bible because you don't know what it is. If it's something really, really old and like really, really like negative, burning sage, it may just piss it off versus you actually getting it out of your house. That goes to the whole like raising your windows and opening your doors. Yes, if you're ADHD like I am, or if you just need it because it helps you cleanse your house better, perfectly do it. But do you honestly think spirits, ghosts, and stuff are using your windows and doors to get through your house? No, they're energy. And it's things like that. Like, and there's no hate. Like, I understand when it comes to witchcraft, it's all about perspective. But at the same time, it's just like when people are like, oh, it's witchcraft, there are no rules. You're correct, but at the same time, there are guidelines. There are things that you do and things you don't do. One of my old roommates, when she was curious and she was very young, she was like 11 or 12, she found a book and decided to cast a circle and call the elements and invoke every other thing that she possibly thought she could. Because she wanted evidence. She wanted to know if this stuff was real. Nobody has stayed on that property since, and they've tried blessing it multiple times. It has not happened. Now, am I saying she actually summoned all of these deities? No, but obviously she got something's attention and it's there. And also, it's interesting because if you look at paranormal cases, you'll, say you're a paranormal investigator, you can go to a house that only has like 1 or 2 spirits, right? Normal spirits. You can come back 5 or 10 years later and there's something darker there. There's something that's kind of like a bully. It bullies the other spirits around. And this has been seen time and time again. And it's interesting to me because I want to know what draws that in. Is it the power thing? Is it they want to control? It's like when people think of depression, they are not depression, oppression. Or basically being demonically possessed. Possession, there we go. They automatically think to like, oh, they woke up with a scratch and boom, they have a demon in you. No, you have to go through what is called oppression before it actually becomes possession, which is basically the spirit is trying to beat you down. It is trying to physically, mentally, and spiritually weaken you. It is going to isolate you. It's going to turn all of the help that you possibly could get completely around. Now, this is after the fact that you have went to a medical professional and they have told you that no, it is not a psychological issue that you were going through. There's a reason that every Tom and, Harry in the world or in the United States, they can't just go around and do an exorcism. Because if so, and the person, it ends horribly, they can go to jail unless otherwise sanctioned by the Catholic Church. And the reason that is because mental illness plays a huge part in this. There are some cases that some of the world's most or notorious demonic possession cases were actually mental health that was not recognized as mental health and basically pushed to the extreme. I've successfully, I'm not going to say exercised, I've cleansed 2 properties with negative shit in it. And I've only had oppression. I've never actually been fully possessed, but I've had one incident where oppression did happen. Most horrifying experience I've ever had in my entire life. Somebody actually did get hurt, so that was not fun. And I also realized that there are some things you should not just dip your toes into. And that's another thing. When it comes to witchcraft, just listen to your instinct. When it comes to something banging in your house, after you run through the things of mundane, what was your favorite ghost hunt or most haunted place that you've been to? Oh, my personal most favorite ghost hunt that I've done would have to be the Coffin House in, technically it's right outside of Lineville, Alabama. And then the most haunted location I went to, this is a funny story actually, because I did not know how haunted and or how historical it was. When I moved down here, my father-in-law was getting married. They had their wedding at, I think it's called Lionsgate Motel or Lionsgate something in St. Augustine, Florida. So we get dressed early that morning, me, my partner, and his father-in-law, we get in the truck and we're going. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, they're telling me, like, all these places, all these things to do in St. Augustine, right? They left out one crucial detail. That it is the most oldest structured settlement in the United States that is still standing and operating. Okay? Did not know that. I knew they had a war there, and I knew that it had, like, history, but I didn't know how old it was. So we get there, and the woman he's marrying did not check other events that were going on around this. This plays an important part, because we parked over here. Where we parked, we had to walk, like, 20 minutes. Probably would have took 10 minutes on a normal day. It took us about 20 to 30 minutes to actually get to where the wedding was at. And in the process of this, they're having one of the biggest celebrations St. Augustine has with some fish fry or fish celebration. So there are hundreds of thousands of people everywhere. They're like little setups, stands everywhere. So we're going through there. That was fine. We go there. I got to try my first martini, like true real martini ever. An amazing experience until we got back. Because my partner had to be home at a certain time because he had work the following day. So we're already late, and my father-in-law, obviously, he's staying with his wife that he just married. So it's just me and my partner trying to find our way back to the truck in the parking garage. In the process of this, we go down the most historical part of St. Augustine. We go past the graveyard. Like, we go past all of this. And at the same time this is happening, I'm already completely, like, spaced out. I'm no longer here. My body is just trying to keep up with him. There's people, there's noise. It's like being stuck in the middle of New York City on, like, the most busiest time. It, like, completely overloaded, right? By the time we got back to the car, the truck, I had my first ever anxiety attack. And I could not figure out I'd never had one before. I was like, what the fuck is this? After I finally got calmed down, I realized, because this has happened to me one other time, I realized that it was a spiritual activity. Because I went to a pagan meeting at Mount Cheahaw in Alabama. I think it's in Alabama. It's on the verge of Alabama, Georgia. But Mount Cheahaw, part of the Appalachian mountain chain. And everything was great. Like, probably about 40 people showed up. We were alone, it was perfect. They did their ritual. I stayed out of it because as soon as I got out of the car and saw all these practitioners, the energy that was coming off of everybody, it was just way too much for me, and it triggered my anxiety. So even the metaphysical stop in Gainesville, Florida, shout out to you, Blue Crystal. That is spelled B-L-U. There's no E and then Crystal. We used to go hang out there all the time, me and my partner did. And I could tell the, like, practitioners that you just don't want to fuck with as soon as they walked in. Because my anxiety will spike. And there was one specific one who was into, I want to say hoodoo. It was either hoodoo or voodoo. And the energy and the guardian that woman had, because the way the store's set up, it's like a loft kind of. There's the downstairs and there's upstairs where it's just like this little area. I walked upstairs because as soon as she walked in and I felt her energy, my head started to throb. I was just like, "Yep, nope, I ain't messing with you. I ain't messing with you." Um, but the place in Lineville, there's also another place in Anniston. It's either in Anniston or Oxford, Alabama. They changed the name, but originally it was the Historical Victorian Inn, and it's this giant old school Victorian house that they have basically kind of converted into this hotel. Yes, some people have that "don't fuck with me" energy just blowing off. They really do. Like, I've had a lot of experiences though, just hanging out at that metaphysical store. Um, so many crazy experiences, and I don't believe in coincidence. There are people that came in there that did not practice, and I wish they would wake up and hear that calling, because holy shit. Hey, there are so many people that are just kind of like in a slumber. Because a lot of people, they have a misconception that our magic, our energy comes from the deities. No, they do not come from the gods or goddesses. They come from us. They can assist us, yes, but they come from us. It's our own personal power. And some people are naturally born with it. No, I'm not saying it's in Southern Cunning. Southern Cunning? Yeah, Southern Cunning. He mentions witch blood and witch fire. Hello. Basically being the terms, witch fire is just this like pure wild chaotic energy that you're just born with, that sits in the middle of your stomach, and it's just a raging fire. And then we have the witch blood, where it's just like you're naturally just born with that ability to be drawn to witchcraft. And a lot of people mix that. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm a natural psychic." That doesn't make you a natural witch. A natural witch is somebody who randomly stumbles into, in my definition, who randomly stumbles into witchcraft, or in a way, it's like you were always meant for it. Like, always just weird things happened. And then a lot of people, thanks to books, have it in their head that in order to be a blood witch, you have to have ancestors or people that practice before you. The problem with that is, what we consider magic now, depending on the era you're talking about, they didn't consider it magic. They considered it everyday, just living. So, if that's the case, then that means a lot of us basically were witches. Like, there are a lot of things that I grew up watching my family members in the South do that now it's considered folk magic, but back then it was just it was the old ways, you know? So there's a lot of things that kind of, I think we need to readdress them. Like energy. I used to say energy when I was talking about working with the solar essence of the thing. It came to me when I was preteen, submitting for evidence. Me too. Same. Like, I still remember the very first time, like, I watched The Craft, I watched Hocus Pocus. I was born in 93. So like, I saw all of them, Charmed, all of that, and I was obsessed with it, but at that point in time, it was TV shows. I was going to Highland Home Elementary, and, oh, thank you. I was a bookworm from very young, like straight up bookworm. And it just so happens that almost every school that I went to, I befriended the librarian. I was that student. The only time I got in trouble in school was for reading books that had nothing to do with the activity that I was trying to learn in that class. But anyways, she looked up at me and she goes, "You know, we're giving these books away. Like, legit just giving them away. We got a grant, so we have to make room for newer books." And I was like, "All right, sweet. How many can we get?" And she's like, "As many as you can carry." They had to call my mom because I had a box full, like a giant box full. But I was shifting through them, and I moved this one book over, and I swear to you, at the moment that how I experienced this, it was just like in Harry Potter when he picks up the wand and the light comes down and the wind blows, because I was moving the books around and I stopped because I saw this old school stereotypical witch, like the tall, very lean, long hair. And this is like, the book was published, it had to be in like the 60s, 70-ish, probably 70s. And it was orange, green, and black slightly faded, but it was basically the stereotypical depiction of a witch standing around this giant cauldron with flames going and bubbles coming out of it, and there was these different animals that were circling her, and it was known as A Cauldron of Witches, The Story of Witchcraft. Basically, it was just a book with different historical events with witches in it. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I read it, because it started off with the, Double Double Troy in Trouble thing. That was the first page you read. But it wasn't until I got to the very end of it where I learned about the Salem witch trials. Somehow I had gone my entire life not even knowing the Salem witch trials happened. And it was that moment right then and there that, like, somehow deep within me, I knew that this is what I was going to do. And then fast forward, it was technically Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, because that was the first time at the age that I heard the term Wicca. And I was like, wait, what is this? So I go to the library, and take in mind, I'm about 11 or 12, because I started practicing at 13, and I started researching around 11 and 12. And I just, pentagrams popped up and like all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, I found it. I was like, wait, this is real. So I started out, obviously, like most people my age did, Wiccan. I did that until I was about 16, I think, and that was when I started shifting to where my only problem with Wicca at that point in time was it got to the point to where it was just like it plateaued. It was like it went up and it went up and it just went down. And then I kind of just started, I used to call myself a eclectic witch. Did you ever get your book back? I'm trying to keep up with the books. The comments. But, and it's so weird too, because, I take pictures. I've only gotten until now to where I'm actually like, actually, it's right here. Keeping a grimoire. I have recipe books, but I've never really... I have ADHD, and most of my handwriting is like chicken scratch. But I used to take pictures because I'm a photographer. And it's so cool for me to look back at like my very first like altar setup to where I am now, where I have an altar here on the table for Samhain. I have an altar on my dresser, my main altar. I have an ancestor altar. I have the community candle altar. I have the honey jar altars. And a lot of these altars that I'm saying, they're literally just like the tops or spaces of bookshelves. I've had altars in boxes. I've had a notebook altar, which was basically everything that I needed, or like the placement of what things were supposed to go on an altar, and then I would just use whatever I could find. But that was that moment. But I've always been able to sense things. My very first paranormal experience, I was in a crib, like a legit crib. And I remember crying and looking up, and this elderly woman, she had something wrapped around her head, but this elderly woman was kind of like hovering, not really hovering, because obviously I was standing in a crib, but she was like up to here. And she was this mist. Like she wasn't solid, but she wasn't transparent either. And I don't remember what she was talking or what she was telling me, but I remember she calmed me down. My brother also stayed in the same room as I did. Fast forward until I'm 18, around, actually, I think it was Thanksgiving. I was at his wife's house, my brother's wife's house at that point in time. And me and her were sitting down at the table drunkenly painting, and talking about my paranormal experiences. And I had mentioned this, him being in the living room working on his tattoo machine, and my brother's pale white as it is. He's like white as a sheet already. Me and my brother are like complete opposites, but he looked at me, and the only thing he could mutter, like all the blood had left his face, and he goes, I thought that was a dream. And I'm like, no, that was real. And then it kind of went from that to back when we actually had landlines and not all these cell phones. It could ring, and before the third ring, I automatically knew who it was. I was never wrong. There were a couple of points where I had full-on dreams. One of my mom's good friends, who basically became to me like an aunt, she kind of went through this event, and she kind of up and left with one of her kids. Um, oh, thank you. Um, and her mother basically was worried about her, so she showed up to our house. Her mother did, and she stayed with us because it was her and her granddaughter technically. And they lived out in the country, like by themselves. She was an elderly lady. So she came over and stayed at our house, and the following day we went back to her house. Well, that night I had a dream. If you live in Birmingham and you've ever taken, or if you live in Alabama and you've been to Birmingham or out of Birmingham, you know that there's that one intersection to where they have two giant flags. The Alabama flag and the American flag, but these are like the car dealership flags. She was coming back. She was driving in her car. She was wearing a white nurse's outfit, solid white. She had a white scrunchie up in her hair. She was crying, and her youngest daughter was in the back seat, laughing and just being a little happy little giddy baby. Oh, thank you. And I woke up and I told my mom this. I was like, I don't know what this is, but here, I dreamed of her, and it was like she was coming back here. I shit you not. The following day, from me telling my mom that, she woke up in front of me because I was sleeping on the couch. She woke up, or I woke up, and she was there. She arrived that morning wearing the exact same outfit down to a T. And this happened 2 other times, and I did it 2 other times. But as I've gotten older, I haven't had full things like that. I think it's called deja vu. There's technically another term for it. It's part of the deja vus. But I'll dream, or I won't remember my dreams, and then I'll do something, like whether it's me staring at my phone right now, or looking down, and the scene that I'm experiencing, it's like it clicks in my brain, and I'm like, wait, I've dreamed this. To me, I call it, me and my partner joke around, it's like the universe's like red flag moments, like, hey, pay attention to this exact moment. And there are techniques to where if you have those moments that you can actually push it farther. I just got used to Tennessee work, but I wanted to catch some of your live. Oh, I hope you're doing good. And thank you. I'm definitely going to start going live more on here. It's just with before our transportational issues, me and my partner, we have this thing where as soon as he gets off from like 5 or 6, sometimes 7, basically around 7 o'clock, it's just kind of mine and his time, whether that's us catching up on movies and shows or sitting around talking and eating. But I also know that to go live on here and to actually catch a lot of y'all is going to have to be around this time. Further on that, I have moments frequently. OMG, I never knew that was a thing. It happens to me. Yes, I'll have to look into the techniques and actually post a couple of videos, but basically it's just, my theory of why we have this, I'll go into that later, but yeah, and it's another term that it's a French term, but there are 3 types. There's the deja vu, where you've done this before, you've seen this before. And then there's the deja vus, but it's a technical different term just with vu on the end, where it's actually you dream of one exact instant. It's only like a second, but since you have that, that's technically, I call that would fall under the lines of having some type of clairvoyant? No, not clairvoyance. Basically a psychic sense. I don't like saying like psychics are when it comes to like a lot of people say supernatural powers or unnatural powers. When it comes to psychic abilities, they're not. They're just our own abilities, just heightened. But it's just like, here's another thing that y'all may not know, because I did not know it was called this at all. I always thought that second sight was having premonitions. It is, but it isn't. Second sight is also to where it's like astral projection, but instead of you astral projecting, you're projecting your sight. And I discovered that I could do this. When I was younger, I used to see a lot of spiritual activity. I used to have spirits literally just show up in my room. And I didn't fully understand it, so it used to scare me, so I got in the habit of going to sleep with a blindfold on. And there was one particular night, and I still do this, and I still remember this one moment. But there was one particular night I had it on, and like I went from being asleep to looking around in my room, and I'm like, but it was like black and white. It wasn't color. It was black and white. Or like this weird like grayish filter was on it. I can't explain the actual how it looks, but I was like, wait, I and I did like this, and I still had the blindfold on. So I tried doing amounts and amounts and amounts of research, and it wasn't until probably, I want to say 4 years ago, I was on Instagram, and one of my the people that I follow, the Witch of the White Parlor. I want to say it's Witch of the White Parlor. She had made a post on what second sight is, and that's what it is. Second sight is basically astral projection, but using your sight. And I had no idea that was even a thing, because like I said, I thought having the sight meant you would have premonitions and visions and stuff like that. But it's more detailed than that. And having those moments, the deja vu moments where you dream of that one instant, that's an ability. And my theory on that is really quick, is basically when we go to sleep and we go through the dream cycles, we basically, what our brains do is, from the very moment you come out of the womb and you open your eyes, your brain takes in everything from faces to PhD. So I have a hard time like traditionally meditating where you're sitting down focusing on one thing. So I do the twilight napping, which is basically where it's like you go in that that fine line between you're actually asleep but you're fully aware of everything that's going on. And when I do that, I can actually start channeling. As in, I'll see images. It's a way for me and my guides to kind of connect without me having to sit there and try to meditate. But in the process of that, I also started looking up ways to how to either trigger lucid dreaming or how to take control of your dreams. This is true. And these are very simple, easy ways. If you have a tattoo, a visible tattoo that you can look at throughout the day repeatedly, or if you wear jewelry, or if you have a watch, every day, starting tomorrow, every day when you wake up, at random intervals throughout your day, you're going to look down and say, okay, my tattoo or jewelry, whatever it is, that object is there, I am awake. You're going to do this repetitively for months. When you walk into a room, flip on the light switch and look up at the light. When it comes on, tell yourself that you are awake. Okay? Do these things repetitively throughout the day as much as you can. Eventually, what you're doing is training your brain to where at any point in time in a dream, if you walk into a room and the light switches don't work in dreams. They're not supposed to. You're not supposed to be able to read in dreams. And there are a few other things that's clocks. They're not supposed to work. So if you look and that tattoo or that ring or that object is not there, it'll trigger your brain to realize, oh shit, I'm asleep. Once you do that, thus you're lucid dreaming. You have control of how your dream goes. Have you tried meditation while drawing? I haven't. I haven't tried that. I did last year, ironically, around this time. I got into this weird phase / trance where literally I would just have this random feeling. I would pick up a notepad and I would just start sketching. Not knowing what I was sketch. Somehow they were all people. And then one of my good friends who's a death witch basically said that that's a way of channeling. It's like auto writing. But yeah, really, that's basically it. Like I said, though, it takes repetitiveness. It takes months upon months upon months of learning to teach your brain to actually do it. But as soon as you do it, you'll completely remember your dreams. Seriously, I've read signs, seen books, and other things in dreams. Street signs are the most common. Oh, wow! Now, see, that's interesting, because, yeah, I was always, now I could be wrong, but yeah, I was always taught that that's how you actually, that's one of the reasons if you do randomly lucid dream, that's what happened. Something happened in the dream that made your brain, made your consciousness wake up and realize, oh shit, wait, I'm in a dream. Like when you're working with ancestors, or if you start working with ancestors, I had to say this because if anybody watches or does the Spiritual Day 30 challenge, I have to change that name. But it's a challenge that I came up with to easily connect with your ancestors, not needing anything except for your mind and your voice, and possibly tea or coffee. But I had someone try it that I know in like real life outside of online, and they'd message me the following day because they wrote a letter to their ancestor or one of their ancestors, and they put it up under their pillow, and nothing happened. And they're like, they got distraught, and they're like, what did I do? Did I piss them off? And I'm like, no. I was like, depending on the ancestor, for one, there's a reason that I say you have to do this for 30 days. You have to show them. Basically, when you do the Spiritual Day 30 challenge, basically the only thing you're doing is in the morning time, whenever you drink your tea or coffee, take 10 minutes aside in that time and talk to your ancestors like I'm talking to y'all right now. Like they are all around you. Talk to them, update them. What this is doing is, for one, they're going to hear you, obviously, but it's also going to help both of y'all teach each other and show each other how to interpret or how you yourself interprets those messages. And another important thing to realize when it comes to working with deities or gods or goddesses or ancestors, they're not going to send you a message that your brain is not going to be able to decode. So in other words, they're going to use symbols and signs and other things that is familiar to you and you alone. That way we can understand it. And I had to tell her that. I was like, look, it takes time for basically what you're doing in this time is you're setting up a line of communication. And the more you do it, the stronger that line becomes, and it's easier to do. But my good friend, Wolf, who I'm currently, I got a funny story behind this one too. This right here, I got a story behind that one. That's weird in so many ways, but, he passed away unexpectedly on the 4th of July, I want to say in 2019. Possibly 2020. I think it was 2020. And I reached out right then and started trying to reach to him. And nothing would happen. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on? And then I remembered that spirits take time to adjust. Thank you, and it's okay. He's definitely doing way better now than he was before. He had a lot of things that he was carrying around, I'll say that. He was an amazing person, though. But it was actually one of my first loves. With this, though, and the reason it's technically a coyote or a wolf, but I was with my mom and my grandmother. She was going to the hospital for her treatments in Birmingham, and we stopped in on one of those random, one of those random gas stations that's also kind of like a farmer's market and like a flea market, and they had all the souvenirs and stuff. And I saw this. So I got it, and I gave it to him. This is important. He was my ghost. We had a romantic relationship off and on for almost 10 years, but he was not out of the closet at all. At all. He finally did kind of halfway come out of it. But a lot of things, a major event happened between me and him.